Hello, we're going to take a deeper dive to the positivism paradigm and apply some of the theories to the film Coda. Now, before we get started, I think it's important that we summarize the film. And Ruby Rossi is a main character who's a high school senior, a child of deaf adults, which is where the movie Coda, the name of it, comes from, and as well as the only hearing person in her family. And Ruby really struggles to find balance with working on her father's fishing boat, schoolwork, social life, and her passion for singing. And as she prepares for life after high school, she finds herself at a crossroad. Should she spread her wings and follow her dreams of singing, or stay with the family business and continue to be her parents' personal translator? And as well, we're going to apply two of the three theories, and we're going to focus on family development theory and social exchange theory, and then apply the theories to the film itself. Now, family development theory is a focus of the family unit and not so much the individual. There are 8 stages to the family cycle, and each stage has specific roles and purpose, and as well as a developmental task associated to it. This theory was developed to specifically analyze families and assume the traditional family begins with the wedding of 2 young adults and continues through the 8 stages until the death of the last spouse. The family unit has changed a lot from the original concept. And it did not account for non-traditional relationships, such as blended or split families, same-sex couples, childless couples, and couples who choose not to get married, and the death of an early spouse. Therefore, some scholars have had to make some changes to this theory over time and account for the variation of more of a modern family unit that we see today. Now, within the first stage of the family development theory is the establishment and the expectation. This is where the marriage of the man and the woman, and the role of this is to really fulfill the societal expectations of married and get used to married life. As we enter stage 2 of childbearing, the role becomes the mother and the father, and the task of the family unit is now more focused on the needs of the child and not so much on the husband and wife. Stage 3 and stage 4 are very similar, with the preschool family and the school age family, where there's a combination of introducing new children and having siblings into this as well as the continuation of transitioning from that infant to preschool, and then more of the adjustment to adolescent demands. Now, stage 5, this is kind of in stage 5 and 6 specifically is where I think the Rossi family really fits into, where the role of parenting older children kind of comes along and having to support older children and their desires for freedom and more responsibility. We really see that as Ruby's getting ready to transition into more of the college side of it. And then launching. So this is where the role of in-laws and grandparents, where now your child is either getting married or they are also having children. And the task, kind of returning to having less parental responsibilities or dependence, and the more the focus on the husband and the wife. Stage 7 is about the middle years, the role of the empty nesters and beyond the caregiver of dependence. And the task is really trying to find new meaning to their life of, the prior, 20, 30 years of being reliant and assisting with your children and having to find a new purpose. As we enter stage 8, which is the aging years, the role is really, getting towards the end of life. And the task is adjusting to the death of either a spouse, and then for the younger generation, the dependence of a parent or grandparent. Now, there's also 3 key components of the family development theory, and that's the persons, the roles, and the role pattern. And the person covers the individuals entering and leaving, whether that be births, deaths, divorce. Roles are the norms and expectations. So stay-at-home mom, mother's typically the caregiver and father is the provider. And the role pattern are the behaviors and the responsibilities, interaction based on each stage of the family life cycle. Now, if we apply the family development theory, the Rossi family fits the stereotype. a heterosexual married couple going from one stage to the next. And the families in between the stages of adult trainee, which is stage 5, and the adult launching of 6. And Ruby is looking for her freedom while mom and dad struggle with the idea of how life or their business may be impacted without Ruby. Mom, expresses the feelings of struggling with the empty nest feeling and not having her baby go away. Now, the second theory that we're going to focus on is a social exchange theory. And this is just really the relationship between two people that is measured using a cost-benefit analysis. While we can still apply it to the family dynamic, it's really best used in the romantic relationship. And it's all about weighing the pros versus cons and analyzing the required efforts needed to create, maintain the relationship versus what you get out of it. What you put into it, and then really what you're getting out of that relationship. And then with that, we take, satisfaction and comparison level alternatives and dependence, and that really decides and helps us determine the stability of the relationship and if your pros and your cons really outweigh to continue with that relationship. Now, satisfaction, comparison level, alternatives, and dependency, as I just mentioned, equals stability. So when we look at, the reward, that's going to be your pros, and the costs are going to be your cons, and that's what our profit comes from. So weighing the goods and the bads of the relationship. And as well, so we take profit. Now we're going to add it to comparison. That's just our prior either expectations or experiences of life and kind of what we expect and traditionally experience out of maybe past relationships. And that helps us determine our level of satisfaction. So we take the profit now, and now we're going to add alternatives. Now we're going to start comparing to others, comparing to, in this case, comparing to other families. What does Miles' families look like in this, and how his family dynamic is, and that gives us our comparison level alternatives. Now, barriers can be your financial, society, and family pressures, plus the investment. So things that you have to put into the relationship, such as kids or finances, and that really gives us our dependence and the need of that relationship. So when we apply the social exchange theory, this is where Ruby really starts weighing the pros and cons of pursuing a music degree versus staying home to support the family business. And right about the 1 hour and 2 minute into the film, Ruby gains the courage to tell, really sign to her parents that I want to go to college at Berklee Music. And that was the first time her parents really got to understand what her passion was. So we look at the recognizing, the reward is, the recognition from her teacher of her voice. And the cost is not singing, after high school due to family responsibilities. And really her wanting to pursue that reward, is the profit of this one. And then as well as pursuing her signing dream plus helping out the family business and expectation really is kind of pushes her desire more to pursue School of Music. Now, pursuing the singing plus the comparing, so we're comparing Miles' family's life or him also applying to Berklee School of Music. And, that kind of is driven Ruby to wanting to apply even more. And, the barriers to this are the financial and societal pressures from her parents, but also the investment, what the family is putting into that. And, her parents at one point in time at the 1 minute, 1 hour and 10 minutes say, you can't go to Boston. We just started a business with you. That really hones that her family is really dependent on their relationship with Ruby and, carrying on with the business there. Now, the Rossi family is a great example for the family development theory as they transition really from one stage to the next and hitting every single role and task associated with it. While the social development theory is also easily identified in the movie Coda, and Ruby really has to weigh all the pros and cons of pursuing her dream or going into the family business. And while Ruby's parents and family business is really dependent on Ruby, Ruby isn't necessarily dependent on her family. So the profit of going to Berkeley really outweighs all the aspects of it. And this film was a great job to really tie these two things together.